Welcome back to IGN at Gamescom. Now, Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair is the exciting new Yooka-Laylee game that I cannot wait to play. Here is Harry Robinson to tell me more, and the Laylee to my Yuka, Max Scoville.
Sounds sort of right. Yeah.
You're the right color.
Harry, thank you so much for coming. I'm incredibly excited about this game.
Me.
The last Yooka-Laylee game, I think, was a absolutely beloved Kickstarter success. I would say darling is the perfect word for that. Obviously evocative of classic games like Banjo-Kazooie, Mario 64.
Yeah, that's
the
right.
new game, which I think was like a total surprise for everybody.
Yeah.
It sort of feels like a complete bonus game that we weren't expecting to get, is a 2D platformer.
That's right, yeah.
So what sort of sparked that decision to begin with?
So at Playtonic, we kind of don't want to get stuck in a rut and be known for just making the same games over and over, and we didn't want to just get in that, oh, these are the 3D platformer guys. And so after Yooka, we had all sorts of things, oh, we could do this, we could do that, and we thought, 2D platformer, maybe people find that interesting, and mix it up. We definitely want to keep surprising everyone. We don't just want to keep making the same thing over and over again. So we thought, taking Yooka and Laylee, putting them in a 2D platform, and that's going to be good. And we were confident that we could do a really good job with it as well.
Now, as like a big old school 3D platforming guy, I think I've replayed Mario 64 like 50 times, 100%, gotten all 120 stars, 150 on the DS version. I love that game. And I remember during that time in the N64, to make a 2D platformer was sacrilegious. No one did it.
Yeah.
People did not do it, did not touch it. So what are the benefits to going back to something like this? Because there was a time where people were like, 2D games, that's like old school, that's garbage, we're only 3D now. And now we get to celebrate both. So what are the sort of like stylistic and gameplay benefits of going back to something that's this, sort of linear?
Well, to be honest, actually there's a significant challenge in going back to 2D, because in 3D, you can kind of get away with everything not being totally flawless. You've got this big immersive world to sort of, draw the player's attention, and there's all sorts of like characters and all sorts of things to see. But in a 2D game, there's really nowhere to hide. If your mechanics aren't really flawless, if your level design isn't great, then it becomes apparent quite clearly. And so actually, it was like, when we started on, it's like, wow, this is actually pretty tricky.
Oh, it's like everything has to be like perfectly
tight,
exactly.
Right? And particularly with the gameplay mechanics, they've got to be super responsive. And like in this game, one of the considerations was we wanted it to be 60 frames a second on every platform, so that it was as responsive as possible and really fluid. And if you like looking at the footage, you can see the person who's playing, they're pretty good at it, and they're just flowing through the level.
Yeah.
And making it feel responsive and fluid, that was took a lot of work.
No, I think a lot of people, to be reductive, are going to look at this and it's like you took the first game and just squished it,
Yeah.
Was there anything you'd sort of gotten used to in terms of game design, mechanically or sort of environmentally, that you wanted to incorporate from the first game into 2D, but just it didn't work or it didn't quite fit?
No, not really. I mean, we approached it completely differently with it being 2D. There wasn't, other than the characters and the lore and that kind of stuff, there wasn't a huge amount that you could take over wholesale. I think one of the considerations was the fact that Yooka and Laylee they were a pair for a start, and you've got to bring them in and work out, okay, well, how do we make these guys work in 2D? In a way that kind of feels like they're the same characters from the original. You can't give them totally different moves and just throw everything out of the window. So part of the thing we had to think of was, well, what do we retain that we think is critical to their moveset, and what do we think that, maybe it's not so important to have?
The last game was obviously sort of a slightly slower pace, sort of, meandering, wonderful, vibrant collectathon. You went around and at your own pace, you grabbed things and you collected them and you opened up doors. This is the kind of game that I think people are going to try to speed run.
Yeah, definitely.
Was this game designed around that? I mean, you can play this casually, but will you be able to go in here and just try to get through as fast as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. We were really aware of speedrunners, in fact, because it's called Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, because actually the Impossible Lair is a level of the game, and it's the hardest level of the game. It's about 4 times longer than any other level. It's got tons and tons of enemies from across the game in it. It's got boss fights in it. And there's no checkpoints. So it's really, really dangerous, but actually you can just go into it right from the beginning of the game. And if you're skillful enough, you can just finish the game by finishing that one level. Mm-hmm. You don't have to play any of the rest of the game. You can just go straight into the lair. And actually in this footage, I think they're going to go into the lair to just get a sense of how difficult it is. But there's this one level that you can just go into, finish it, finish the game. So we really think that we're going to see speedrunners just blast through that and finish the game in 10 or 15 minutes.
So that's a novel approach. That feels almost like Breath of the Wild-ish.
Yeah.
You can fight Ganon, you're going to die.
Yeah, exactly.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
So is it just a matter of sort of kind of letting players get the feel of the game playing through other levels, or are they going to gather new skills and stuff along the way?
Yeah, so one way is that you could get good, but that's probably a little punishing for players. I don't think I think there's only one person in the office who can get through it without taking a hit. So it's
Wow.
It is really, really difficult. But it is possible, though. It's called impossible, but it's actually possible. But for mere mortals like myself, thankfully there is another way. So the game has got all these other 2D levels in, and at the end of every 2D levels, there's a bee that's been imprisoned. And when you complete the level, you free the bee, and that bee will go into the impossible lair with you and take one hit on your behalf. So as you complete levels, you free bees. The more bees you got, the more hits you can take. The more hits you can take, the more possible the impossible lair becomes. And there's 48 in total, so that's a lot of hits you can take by the end of the game, should you complete every single level and find all of the bees.
Now, obviously, this is very evocative of, I would say, vintage rare games, just like the last one was. A tremendous pedigree to carry that forward, obviously. And when I think of a game like that, I think of Donkey Kong Country, which had massive cartoon bosses at the end of each level. Not at every level, but each world.
Yeah, each world. Yeah.
Big badgers you could beat up, and the horrible birds that would poop eggs.
Classics.
What kind of stuff have you guys thrown in terms of bosses in this game, and what was it like coming up with the ideas around them?
So actually the only boss in this game is Capital B, so you can see him here, and you fight him multiple times throughout the Impossible Lair. So the Impossible Lair is broken up into a boss fight with him, then a big chunk of incredibly difficult level, and then another boss fight which is more intense and more level, and it kind of progresses like that. So the only boss fight is Capital B, but he's still pretty intense.
So it's sort of like a Robotnik approach where he keeps coming at you, but from different angles.
Yeah, exactly.
I appreciate that. Musical score, another thing that you guys are totally known for. What's going on with the music this time around?
So this time we've got Dave Wise and Grant Kirkhope leading the charge on the music, although there's two guys from our studio as well who've been working closely with them, and that's been really awesome to see those guys work alongside Dave and Grant and just assimilate their talent.
Yep.
And yeah, the music in this game is totally awesome, and each level has two different versions of itself. So when you go into a level, you'll play it one time and it's kind of like the normal way, and then you can do something that transforms it into a totally different version of a level. So to give you an example, you go in a level and it's normal, then you go in again and it's been frozen. And we have totally different music tracks for each one of those as well, so it's like real treat for the ears as you're playing the game.
Now, you guys, it seems like you're almost going backwards a little bit. You're going, 3D and now 2D. Is there any chance we're ever going to see like a pixel art version, or
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, we do have a character called Rextro, who's this kind of retro dinosaur. So I can imagine a pixel art game with him. But there's no plans right now.
Were there ever conversations about making this one like actually flat 2D?
Yeah, there were. Yeah,
really?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's all sorts of things that we thought of that we could do with this, and different environments and worlds. There's like just so many ideas that you got to like pick the best ones, I guess.
Are you playing with the sort of depth? Like, are there background elements you can get to, or is this like a pretty straightforward?
It's pretty much straightforward 2D, but I guess one of the other interesting aspects about this game, so you've got the 2D levels, but this place that you can see here, this is called the Overworld, and you probably look at this and go, okay, I get it, it's a map screen, but actually this is much more like a mini adventure game in its own right. So there's all sorts of characters to meet and interact with, there's loads of different locations to visit, there's puzzles to solve, there's secrets to find, and a bunch of the stuff you find in this overworld you can actually bring into the 2D levels, and a bunch of the stuff you do in the overworld changes the 2D levels. So you've got this kind of nice back and forth between playing these quite intense 2D levels, and then you can imagine you play a level, then another level, you kind of eventually get a bit stressed out, your heart's going, and you want a bit of relax.
Right.
And the overworld is kind of a nice place to just, sit back and just chill out and still make progress, but just not have to deal with buzzsaws and like a trillion enemies thrown at you and that kind of thing.
Now, a lot of the levels we've seen so far have been like wildly different from each other, which again, part of your studio's pedigree, I think, is like really cool. What kind of environments can players expect to see as the game continues?
Yeah, so there's all sorts of different locations. That was one of the key things for us. We didn't want to have a sort of repeating tile sets. We wanted players to feel like they were exploring this genuine world. So there's all sorts of locations. There's towns, as you can see here. There's a factory. There's even like blimps up in the sky. There's like countrysides. There's lots of like really idyllic and beautiful and colourful locations. And even as you can see in like a terrifying factory like this, we still try and have it as vibrant and colourful as possible because it's it's a Yooka-Laylee game. And that's one of the cool things about working on a game like this. It's like getting to make these crazy, colourful, vibrant worlds. It's just really awesome.
No, it's so much fun seeing you guys get creative and really, like you said, just kind of not get stuck in a rut. If you personally could take another sort of genre of game design to put Yooka-Laylee into, what would you do?
What would I do? Another genre.
Turn-based, first-person,
Western.
Yeah, first-person shooter. That'd be good, wouldn't it? I mean, if you look at Banjo-Kazooie, they did that in the past, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So that would work, but I don't know.
you're not on the hook for it or anything, I was just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I mean, a kart race would be pretty cool, but definitely no promises.
Yeah.
That'd be a good fit. Now, obviously, this is sort of a hard question when you have the last boss of the game immediately accessible. What's the sort of average play length you're seeing?
Yeah, it's kind of tricky to sort of answer that, but I'd say if you think of like an average player just going through it, an average player at a sensible pace, I don't know, say maybe 20 hours worth of content, and then if you wanted to find everything, perhaps 30, something like that.
Cool.
Nice.
Final question, when can people play this?
So they can play it in October of this year.
That makes me so happy. That's
I know.
so soon.
We're really excited, I know.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, a game I cannot wait to play. We have plenty more games coming up right here on IGN at Gamescom now, so don't go anywhere.